Chapter 1. The cracks begin to show. The house smelled faintly of roasted chicken when I pushed the front door open, though the scent had dulled into something lukewarm, as if the food had been waiting too long. My steel-toed boots felt like they weighed 100 pounds each, dragging across the hardwood floor as I set my lunch pail down by the coat rack. Another 12-hour shift at the plant had worn me thin, but coming home, that was supposed to be my relief. My sanctuary. Babe, I called, forcing a bit of warmth into my tone. No answer, just the faint hum of the dishwasher somewhere in the back. I loosened my collar and stepped into the kitchen. The table was set for 3, but only 2 plates looked used, hers and our daughter Sophia's. My plate sat untouched, a polite prison of cold chicken breast. Mashed potatoes hardened around the edges. From the couch, the bluish light of the television flickered. There she was, Melissa, my wife. She was curled up with a blanket, scrolling on her phone, when her eyes flicked up and landed on me. Her smile came a second too late, almost like she had to remind herself to wear it. "You're late," she said softly, tucking her hair behind her ear. "Yeah, they asked me to stay over. Had to help fix one of the lines." I hung my jacket on the back of the chair. "Chicken smells good. It's cold now," she replied, eyes dropping back to her phone. That sting sat in my chest a moment too long. "Sorry," I muttered, easing into the chair and picking at the food. Melissa shifted on the couch, suddenly attentive, then oddly sweet. "You wanted to heat it up for you." Her tone made me pause, too quick, too nice, like she was trying to make up for something. I glanced at her, at the way she held her phone close, screen tilted away from me. "No, it's fine," I said, forcing a smile. "I'll eat it like this." She returned to scrolling, thumb moving fast, lips twitching with the hint of a grin. Not for me, whatever was on that screen. Sophia padded down the hallway in her socks, a school hoodie hanging off her small frame. 16 years old. Her face was sharp like her mother's, but her eyes carried that same quiet watchfulness I'd had as a boy. "Hey, Dad," she said softly, taking a seat across from me. "You're late again." "Yeah, Sophia, work's been busy." She gave a small nod, then glanced at her mother. Melissa was pretending not to notice. The tension settled into the room like dust in sunlight, too visible to ignore, too awkward to brush away. I tried to lighten it. "So, how's the math test?" "You ace it." Sophia's lips curved into a faint smile. 88. "Not bad. That's better than I ever did in math." I chuckled, taking a sip of water. But her eyes slid to her mom again, just for a second, before returning to her plate. I caught it, though. Kids pick up on things quicker than we think. Later that night, after Sophia had gone to her room, Melissa was folding laundry in the bedroom. I leaned against the doorframe, tired but trying to be playful. "You've been on that phone a lot lately," I teased. She froze for half a second, just half, but long enough for me to notice. Then she laughed lightly, too lightly. "Oh, please. Just chatting with some friends from the book club." "Book club, huh?" I grinned. "What are you ladies reading now?" "Something steamy." She smirked, but her eyes didn't quite match it. "Nothing you'd like." She shoved a folded shirt into the drawer. Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. She moved quickly, scooping it up, locking it before I could even see the screen. Then she placed it face down. I raised a brow. "Since when do you lock your phone like that?" Melissa didn't miss a beat. "Privacy, Martin. Everyone deserves a little." "I never said you didn't." Her jaw tightened for a split second. Then she softened. "Don't make it a thing, okay? I'm just tired. I'll let it go." Maybe she really was just tired. God knows she cared a lot too. But the unease crawled through me, settling somewhere deep. The weeks rolled on like that. She was cold one day, sweet the next. One evening, she'd brush past me, muttering about being exhausted. And another, she'd curl up next to me on the couch like nothing was wrong. One Friday night, she announced casually, "I'm going out with the girls." I blinked at her from the recliner. "This late?" "Yeah, we're just grabbing drinks." "Don't wait up." She was already dressed, tight jeans, blouse cut lower than usual, makeup done with extra care. My chest tightened with a feeling I couldn't put a name on. "Since when do you do late-night drinks?" I asked carefully. "Since forever, Martin. You just don't notice." Her tone was sharp, defensive. Sophia, sitting cross-legged on the couch, looked between us silently. I forced a chuckle. "All right, have fun then." Melissa shot me a quick smile, kissed my cheek, and left. The door clicked shut, and the house felt colder. Sophia finally spoke, her voice low. "Dad, does Mom seem different to you?" Her words landed like a stone in my gut. I stared at her, unsure of what to say. "She's just stressed, sweetheart. Work life, you know how it goes." Sophia didn't look convinced. She just shrugged, pulled her hoodie tighter, and went back to scrolling on her phone. That night, I lay awake in bed alone, staring at the ceiling. Melissa didn't come home until nearly 2 in the morning, when she slid under the sheets, smelling faintly of perfume and something else I couldn't place. I kept my eyes closed. Her breathing slowed quickly, like she was already asleep. I wanted to ask. I wanted to turn over and demand answers. Instead, I swallowed the lump in my throat and told myself a lie that was easier to believe. You're just imagining things. Chapter 2, Strange Distance, Strange Comforts. The following weeks were a blur of long days at the plant and longer nights of silence at home. If Chapter 1 of my life had been about coming home to warmth, Chapter 2 was filled with cold drafts I couldn't explain. Melissa's patterns began shifting, subtle at first, then sharp enough to slice through the routine I'd trusted for years. Going out with the girls again, she said one Tuesday evening, already slipping into a pair of heels I hadn't seen her wear in months. I looked up from the recliner, where the evening news droned on. On a Tuesday, she glanced at me, lips glossed, eyes lined darker than usual. "What's wrong with Tuesday?" "Nothing, I guess. Just seems sudden." She smiled thinly, brushing past me to grab her purse. "Don't wait up. It's just a drink or two." The door closed behind her, and I sat there staring at the muted television, wondering when just a drink became a weekly event. The old me, proud, loyal, maybe too stubborn for his own good, refused to jump to conclusions. Melissa had stood by me through layoffs, injuries, and lean years when money barely stretched to the end of the month. She deserved her space. She deserved some fun. That's why I told myself as the clock ticked past midnight and the house stayed too quiet. But the loyal man inside me wrestled with another thought. What if I'm just blind? On Friday, she came home with a new dress bag slung over her arm. Sophia was sitting at the kitchen table, chewing on a pencil as she worked through algebra homework. "Another dress?" Sophia asked, curiosity plain in her voice. Melissa opened the bag, sliding out a sleek black dress that shimmered under the light. "It's on sale." Couldn't resist. Sophia raised her brows. "Looks kind of fancy for book club." Melissa's lips tightened for a fraction of a second before she forced a laugh. Sometimes a girl just likes to look nice. She shot her daughter a look that ended the conversation. I cleared my throat, trying to diffuse the tension. "Well, you'll turn heads, that's for sure." She turned to me with that practiced smile, the one that was warm enough to pass for affection but didn't quite reach her eyes. "That's the idea." The word stuck with me longer than I cared to admit. That night, when Melissa left again, Sophia slid onto the couch beside me, curling her legs under her. She was quiet for a while, watching the glow of the muted television before finally speaking. "Dad, don't you think it's weird?" I didn't look at her right away. "What's weird?" "Mom, the makeup, the late nights. She never used to be like this." I rubbed the back of my neck, feeling the weight of her words pressing against the doubt I'd been carrying. "She's just trying new things, Sophia. People change." Sophia's voice softened, but her eyes were sharp. "Maybe, but she doesn't act like she's changing with us. It's like she's changing away from us." That hit harder than I expected. For a moment, I wanted to agree with her, to admit that I felt the same shift in the air. But pride held my tongue. I was the husband, the man of the house. It wasn't my job to cast suspicion on Melissa. It was my job to hold the family together. I forced a smile and patted Sophia's hand. "Don't worry about your mom, sweetheart. She loves us. That's not going to change." But even as I said it, the words felt hollow. Saturday morning, I came into the kitchen to find Melissa humming softly as she cooked breakfast. Pancakes sizzled on the skillet, the air sweet with syrup. She looked almost radiant, hair freshly done, skin glowing. For a moment, I forgot the unease, forgot the midnight silences. "Morning," I said, kissing her on the cheek. She turned with a smile, playful this time, eyes bright. Morning, stranger. It was the Melissa I remembered, the one I'd married, the girl who used to sing off-key while folding laundry, who'd laugh at my dumb jokes until tears rolled down her cheeks. "Smells amazing," I said, sliding into a chair. She set a plate in front of me, touching my shoulder lightly. "I thought you deserve a treat." For a while, it was like nothing had changed. We ate together, laughed about some silly commercial on TV, even planned to take Sophia to the movies that night. But when Melissa's phone buzzed on the counter, she snatched it up quickly, her smile faltering. She excused herself to the hallway, whispering in a tone too low for me to catch. When she returned, the glow was gone. "Something wrong?" I asked carefully. "Just a friend," she replied. Then, forcing brightness. "So, about that movie, maybe we should do it another weekend." "I'm not feeling up to it." Sophia's fork clattered against her plate. "You're never up to it anymore." Melissa shot her a look, but Sophia pushed back her chair and stomped upstairs. The slam of her bedroom door echoed like a warning shot. I stared at my half-eaten pancakes, appetite gone. "She just wants time with you, that's all." Melissa sighed, rubbing her temple. "Don't starve, Martin. I'm trying. You don't know what it's like feeling trapped in the same routine every single day." I swallowed hard, the words stinging deeper than I wanted to admit. That night, when Melissa slipped into bed smelling faintly of wine and some floral perfume I didn't recognize, I turned to face the wall. In my mind, two voices argued. One was stubborn, loyal, demanding I protect her, defend her, believe her. The other whispered doubts in the dark about her late nights, her new clothes, her sudden bursts of sweetness followed by cold withdrawal. I clenched my fists under the blanket, jaw tight. She's my wife. She wouldn't do that. She wouldn't. But the silence stretched too long, and the perfume lingered too strong, and the loyal man inside me started to wonder if I was just lying to myself. Chapter 3: Shifts in the bedroom. The distance between us was no longer just in the way she smiled, or didn't. It wasn't in the locked phone or the late nights. It had found its way into our bedroom, a place that once felt like a sanctuary, but now felt like a museum, cold, silent, untouched. Melissa used to fall asleep with her head on my chest, her breath soft against me. These days, she lay turned away, a barrier of blankets tucked around her shoulders. When I shifted closer, she shifted farther. One Tuesday night, I reached for her, brushing her arm gently. "It's been a while," I whispered. She stiffened. "Martin, I'm tired." "I know, but..." I trailed off, searching for words that didn't sound needy. "I just miss being close to you." Her sigh was sharp. "It's not always about you wanting something, you know. Sometimes I just need space." I pulled back, staring at the ceiling in the dark. The rejection wasn't new, but tonight it cut deeper. I turned on my side, pretending sleep while my mind churned. The next morning, I tried again. Melissa was pouring coffee, still in her robe, hair loose around her shoulders. I slipped up behind her, kissed her neck. She flinched like my touch burned. "Martin," she snapped, pulling away. "Not now." I froze, hurt flickering through me. "What's wrong with now?" Her eyes narrowed, her lips a hard line. "Do you have to keep pushing?" "I told you, I'm exhausted." Exhausted. That word was becoming her shield, her excuse. I raised my hands in surrender. All right. I'll back off." But inside, something twisted. That weekend, I tried to set the mood. I bought her favorite wine, cooked dinner, chicken piccata, the way she liked it, and even lit candles. When she came home, her expression was unreadable. "What's all this?" "Just us," I said, smiling. "Thought we could have a night together." Her eyes flicked over the table, the candles, me standing there nervously in a pressed shirt. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw her soften. But then she shook her head. "Martin, I can't." My smile faltered. "You can't eat dinner with me?" "I'm not in the mood for this," she said quietly, gesturing at everything. "I'm drained. Work, life, everything." The candles flickered between us, their glow mocking the chill in her voice. "Melissa, I'm trying here," I said, voice tighter than I meant. Her arms folded. "And I'm telling you I need time. I need space. Can't you respect that?" The air thickened, sharp with unspoken accusations. Finally it cracked. "Respect." My voice rose, frustration breaking through. I've respected you every damn day we've been married. I bust my ass out there. I come home, and all I want is some connection with my wife. And what do I get? Excuses. Her face hardened. You think this is easy for me? You think I don't feel pressure? I'm drowning, Martin. Emotionally, mentally. And the last thing I need is you pawing at me like I owe you something. The words landed like blows. I stepped back, throat tight. I never said you owed me. I miss us. That's all. For a moment, silence. Then she looked away, her voice lower, almost trembling. I need time to heal. From everything. From years of feeling like I'm just a wife, just a mother, nothing else. Don't you get it? I stared at her, chest aching. Heal? From what? We hadn't lost anyone. We hadn't gone through some catastrophe. What wounds was she talking about? But the way she said it, like she was carrying invisible scars, left me speechless. I'll give you time, I muttered finally, though my voice cracked. She nodded once, like a queen granting mercy, and walked past me into the bedroom, leaving me standing in the glow of dying candles. That night, I lay awake again, her back turned, her breathing steady. My thoughts wouldn't quiet. Maybe she's right. Maybe I've been selfish. Maybe I've been too focused on work, not enough on her. Maybe she really is exhausted. God knows I've seen her running herself ragged with Sophia's school, the house, everything else. Maybe this is just a phase. I want to believe that. Needed to believe it. But another voice gnawed at me. Or maybe it's something else. Something you don't want to see. I clenched my fists under the sheets, caught between two brutal possibilities. Either I was failing her, or she was hiding something from me. Neither option sat well. Meanwhile, Sophia wasn't blind. One evening, she came into the kitchen while I was fixing a leaky faucet. She leaned against the counter, watching me quietly. "Dad," she said finally. "Yeah," I replied, tightening the wrench. Her voice was careful, hesitant. "Why does Mom act different with you? Like she doesn't want to be around you?" The question stabbed deeper than I wanted to admit. I forced a small laugh, trying to play it off. "Marriage is complicated, Sophia. Your mom's just tired. People go through phases." Sophia frowned. "She's not just tired. She avoids you." I set the wrench down, exhaling slowly. "Sophia, don't." I started, but she cut me off. "I hear her, you know," she said softly. The way she sighs when you try to talk to her. The way she looks at you like she's already somewhere else. Her words echoed everything I'd been trying not to think. I swallowed hard, forcing calm. "That's between me and your mom, okay? Don't carry that weight." Sophia bit her lip, then nodded reluctantly. I don't want to see you hurt." Her honesty cut through me. I managed a faint smile, patting her shoulder. "I'll be fine, sweetheart. Don't worry." But when she left, the silence pressed in on me heavier than ever. That night, I reached for Melissa again. Just a hand on her arm, a simple touch. She shifted away. "Not tonight," she murmured, already half asleep. I rolled onto my back, staring at the ceiling, heart heavy. The battle inside me raged on, between suspicion and denial, between the loyal husband who refused to believe his wife could betray him, and the wounded man who felt her slipping farther away with every passing night. Chapter 4, a shocking clue. It started with a crumpled piece of paper. Not a love letter, not a lipstick stain, nothing so dramatic. Just a receipt, half wrinkled, buried in the pocket of Melissa's jacket when I went to hang it on the hook by the door. Normally, I wouldn't have looked twice, but something about the bold print caught my eye. Rosewood Inn. The date was last Thursday, a time I remembered clearly, because Melissa had claimed she was meeting her book club friends at a wine bar across town. The receipt showed 2 cocktails, a dessert, and a charge for a late-night entree. Not the kind of thing you order with girlfriends trying to count calories. My thumb rubbed the paper until it tore slightly at the edge. My chest tightened. It doesn't mean anything, I told myself. Maybe they changed the meeting spot. Maybe it was just a group thing. But the lie I fed myself didn't settle well. I folded the receipt, slipped it back in her pocket, and hung the jacket on the hook like nothing had happened. The next clue wasn't paper, it was scent. One night, Melissa came home later than usual. I was in the living room, pretending to watch the game, but really just staring at the clock. The door opened, and she breezed in with a casual smile, setting her purse on the counter. "Hey," she said brightly. "Hey." I tried to keep my tone even. When she leaned down to kiss my cheek, the fragrance hit me. Not her usual floral perfume, but something muskier, stronger. Not feminine at all. Cologne. I blinked, pulling back slightly. New perfume. She froze for half a second, then laughed too quickly. Oh no. Must have been one of the girls. You know how it is when you hug goodbye. Everything transfers. I nodded, though my stomach churned. I wanted to press, but the loyal, stubborn part of me bit my tongue. Another night, she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she showered. Normally, she kept it glued to her hand. I wasn't a man who snooped. Never had been. But that night, as I rinsed my plate in the sink, the screen lit up with a preview. Unknown number. Last night was amazing. Can't stop thinking about you. My hand froze around the sponge. Before I could read more, Melissa's voice rang out from the bathroom. Martin, did you see my conditioner? I can't find it. I fumbled, heart pounding, and turned the phone face down before she came back out. When she did, hair wrapped in a towel, she spotted it immediately. Her eyes flicked to mine, then to the phone. She grabbed it quickly. Thanks for bringing my purse in earlier, she said lightly, though her grip was white-knuckled around the device. I just nodded. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling while her screen glowed faintly against the wall. The occasional buzz broke the silence, followed by her quick, quiet taps. I didn't ask. I couldn't. Sophia noticed things too, though she didn't voice them directly at first. She started watching her mom more carefully, her young eyes tracking the changes with suspicion that I was too proud to entertain. One Saturday morning, she sat at the table scrolling her own phone, glancing up when Melissa came into the kitchen dressed far nicer than a grocery run required. Going somewhere special? Sophia asked casually, though her tone carried an edge. Melissa smiled. Just errands. You know, groceries, dry cleaning. Sophia's gaze dropped to the heels on her mother's feet. You need heels for groceries? Melissa's smile thinned. Don't start with me, Sophia. I just want to feel good about myself. Sophia didn't respond, but when her mother left, she looked at me with a raised brow. Groceries and heels, Dad, she said softly. I forced a laugh, though it came out hollow. Maybe she just wants to dress up. Nothing wrong with that. Sophia didn't argue, but I could see in her eyes she didn't believe it. She was keeping her own quiet tally. The tension grew heavier in the house. Melissa floated in and out like a ghost, sometimes warm, sometimes distant, always guarded. Her phone never left her hand. Her excuses grew more polished. Late meetings, long drives, a friend in need. And I clung to silence. At work, the guys joked around about wives nagging or girlfriends being needy. I laughed when I was supposed to, but inside, I carried a gnawing shame. What if I'm a fool? What if everyone sees it but me? That question burrowed deep, keeping me awake at night. One evening, Sophia sat with me on the porch, the summer air heavy and still. She sipped a soda, legs curled under her while I nursed a beer. Dad, she said after a long pause. Yeah. Her eyes stayed on the darkening street. Don't you ever feel like you're the last to know stuff? The words hit harder than she realized. I swallowed, staring at the foam in my glass. What do you mean? She shrugged. Just everyone else sees things before you do. That's all. Her tone was casual, but her meaning wasn't. I didn't answer right away. My chest tightened with the truth I was too stubborn to admit. She was right. In my marriage, in my own home, I was starting to feel like the one left in the dark. The loyal soldier, still guarding the door, while the war had already moved inside. Chapter 5, the tape. It was late when Sophia knocked on my door. Too late for her to be awake. Too late for anything normal. I was sitting at the desk in my room, bills scattered in front of me, pretending to make sense of the numbers while my mind wandered elsewhere. Dad, her voice came soft, shaky. I turned, surprised. Em? What's wrong? Bad dream. She shook her head, her face pale, eyes wide with something more than fear. She was holding something small in her hands, clutched tight, like it might burn her if she let it go. Can I come in? Of course. I pushed the papers aside and gestured to the bed. She sat slowly, her hands trembling as she held out a small USB drive. My brow furrowed. What's this? Her voice cracked as she whispered, Dad, I know it's sick, but you need to watch this. The way she said it made my chest tighten. My mind jumped to the worst possible conclusion, things a father never wants to imagine his child stumbling across. My stomach turned cold. I swallowed hard. Sophia, what is this? Where did you get it? She looked away, chewing her lip. I found it on Mom's laptop. It was hidden in a folder. I wasn't snooping, I swear. I was just trying to print homework, and I clicked the wrong thing. My throat felt dry. A private folder. A hidden file. The kind of thing that made shame rise like bile. God, had she found something for Melissa and me? Some old, forgotten video we'd made when we were younger, back when our marriage was different, alive? The thought made my skin crawl. My daughter couldn't have seen that. I reached for the USB slowly, my hand shaking. Sophia, maybe you misunderstood. Maybe it's not. Her eyes cut into mine, wet with tears. Dad, just watch it. Please. The urgency in her voice left no room for excuses. I plugged it into my laptop. The screen flickered, then the video file appeared. My fingers hovered over the mouse, hesitation clawing at me. You sure about this? I asked, almost begging her to take it back. She nodded, her lips pressed tight. I clicked play. At first, there was only darkness, the shaky movement of a phone camera. Then the image steadied, and the blood drained from my face. Melissa. She was there, clear as day, lying across a bed I didn't recognize, sheets twisted beneath her. Her laugh, God, that laugh I used to love, echoed faintly through the speakers. She was in lingerie I had never seen before. And then he appeared. The man. My stomach dropped as recognition hit me. This wasn't some stranger, some faceless fling. This was someone I knew. Someone who had eaten at my table, shaken my hand, looked me in the eye like a friend. The room tilted. My breath came shallow, like the air had been sucked out. Melissa kissed him, touched him, whispered things to him that I could hear clearly, words I hadn't heard from her in years. I slammed the laptop shut, heart pounding so hard it rattled my ribs. Dad, Sophia's voice cracked. I couldn't speak. My hands were trembling, my jaw locked tight. 1,000 thoughts crashed through me at once. Rage, shame, disbelief. Dad, I'm so sorry, she whispered, tears sliding down her cheeks. I didn't want to see it either. I swear, I tried to look away, but once I knew, I couldn't keep it from you. I sat back in the chair, covering my face with both hands. I wanted to scream, to punch something, to make the world stop spinning. Instead, silence pressed in, heavier than stone. He was in our house. I muttered finally, voice raw. At our table. I trusted him. Sophia sniffled. I know, the betrayal wasn't just Melissa's. It was his. A man I had welcomed as a friend, as family. The knife cut deeper because it came from both sides. Dad, Sophia whispered again, her hand lightly touching my arm. I pulled my hand from my face and looked at her. My little girl, caught in the middle of a nightmare she should never have been part of. I'm sorry, she said again, her voice shaking. But there's one more thing you need to know. Chapter 6, the second bombshell. Sophia's words hung in the air like a knife suspended above my chest. But there's one more thing you need to know. I stared at her, my throat dry, my pulse thudding in my ears. My hands, still trembling from what I had just seen on that cursed tape, gripped the edge of the desk like I might fall apart if I let go. What more could there possibly be? My voice cracked, raw with disbelief. Sophia swallowed hard. She shifted uncomfortably on the bed, her eyes darting away before she forced them back to me. Her fingers twisted in her hoodie strings. Dad, Mom's pregnant. The words slammed into me like a sledgehammer. For a moment, the room felt impossibly quiet, like even the air was stunned. Then a hollow laugh escaped me, half disbelief, half madness. She told me she needed time to heal. I whispered, my eyes unfocused. That's what she said. That's why she wouldn't let me near her. Time to heal. Sophia's lips trembled. Dad, it's not yours. The last shred of ground under my feet gave way. My heart dropped so hard it hurt, like a fist clenching around it. I stood abruptly, the chair screeching backward across the floor. My hands pressed against my head, clawing at my scalp like I could rip the truth out. She said she was tired, that she was stressed, that she wasn't in the mood. My voice rose, shaking with fury and grief. All those excuses, and the whole time, I choked, my chest heaving. The whole damn time, she was carrying another man's child. Sophia's eyes glistened, tears spilling down her cheeks. Dad, I didn't want to tell you, but you needed to know. She didn't say it to me directly. I overheard her. She was on the phone with him. I couldn't ignore it. I staggered back, my legs weak, and sat heavily on the bed beside her. My head dropped into my hands. The weight of it all pressed down until I could barely breathe. Images flooded my mind. Melissa turning away from me in bed, muttering, "Not tonight, I'm exhausted." Melissa spending longer in the bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror, adjusting her blouse before leaving for one of her so-called girls' nights. Melissa smiling at her phone, the glow lighting up her face at midnight while I lay beside her, pretending to sleep. And every time I asked, every time I believed her excuses. I told myself she was stressed, overworked, maybe even depressed. I blamed myself, convinced I wasn't doing enough as a husband. But now it all snapped into cruel focus. The distance, the coldness, the sudden sweetness afterward, the guilty overcompensation. Her healing, her walls. It wasn't healing at all. It was hiding. My chest tightened. I slammed my fist into the mattress once, twice, teeth clenched so hard my jaw ached. Dad. Sophia reached for me, her voice breaking. I pulled away, standing again, pacing the small room like a caged animal. She destroyed everything. I muttered, voice low and shaking. Our family, our trust. And now, I stopped pressing a hand against my chest like it might stop the ache. Now she's carrying his child. The shame cut almost deeper than the betrayal. How'd I missed it? How'd I been so blind? I had been working double shifts, busting my back to keep the bills paid, food on the table, a roof over our heads, thinking she was mine, thinking she was loyal. And the whole time, she was giving herself to another man, and now giving me the cruelest humiliation of all. Another man's baby in my wife's belly. My knees buckled, and I sank to the floor, back against the bed frame. My hands covered my face, but they couldn't dam the flood. For the first time in years, hot tears forced their way down my cheeks. I tried to stifle the sound, but a sob ripped free from my chest, raw and guttural. Dad, Sophia whispered, her voice trembling with the fragility of porcelain. She knelt beside me, wrapping her arms around my shoulders. I held her tightly, like she was the only thing tethering me to this earth. My daughter, my flesh and blood, was the only pure truth left in a house built on lies. My breathing was ragged, rage burned in my gut, but it was tangled with heartbreak so deep it left me hollow. I gave her everything, I rasped. Years of my life, my loyalty, my love, and she couldn't even give me honesty. Sophia pressed her head against my shoulder, whispering, "You didn't deserve this, Dad. None of this is your fault." But shame still clawed at me. A gnawing, bitter voice whispered in my mind. Maybe you weren't enough. Maybe you weren't the man she needed. Maybe that's why she looked for someone else. I shook my head violently, trying to push the thought away. No, that was her choice. Her betrayal. Her selfishness. But the wound was there, deep and festering, and no amount of logic could stop it from bleeding. Minutes passed in silence, broken only by my uneven breaths. Sophia didn't move, just held on to me like she knew I might fall apart completely without her. Finally, I managed to whisper, "It all makes sense now." Every late night, every excuse, every damn lie. Sophia's grip on me tightened. I know. I closed my eyes, letting the truth settle over me like a grave. My wife wasn't just unfaithful. She wasn't just distant. She was carrying another man's child. And nothing in the world could ever make that right. Chapter 7, Confrontation Brewing. The house no longer felt like home. Every wall seemed to echo with lies. Every chair and picture frame, tainted by the truth Sophia had forced me to face. I hadn't slept in 2 nights. My body felt like it was running on fumes and rage alone, but my mind wouldn't quiet. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Melissa, my wife, laughing on that tape, gasping for someone else's touch, and then her hand on her belly, carrying a life that wasn't mine. The thought twisted in me like a blade. I sat at the kitchen table in the early hours, a single lamp casting long shadows. Spread before me were scraps of evidence I had begun collecting. Receipts tucked into her purse, expensive restaurants I'd never been to, a hotel key card she thought I hadn't noticed fall from her coat pocket. Screenshots Sophia had quietly taken of text notifications lighting up her mother's phone when she wasn't looking. Each piece felt like a nail hammered into the coffin of the life I thought I had. Pride wrestled with pain inside me. Part of me wanted to storm into the bedroom and unleash every ounce of fury boiling in my veins. But another part, the part that still saw the vows we made, the years we'd built together, hesitated. How could she do this? How could she destroy us so carelessly, and then come home and smile at me like nothing was wrong? A creak on the stairs pulled me from my thoughts. Sophia appeared, wrapped in a blanket, her eyes still puffy from the same restless nights I'd suffered. "Dad," she whispered, stepping carefully into the kitchen. "You're still awake." I pushed the papers together, ashamed for her to see me like this, hunched over evidence of her mother's betrayal like some desperate detective. "You shouldn't have to be involved in this," I muttered, rubbing a hand over my face. But Sophia came closer, her voice steady. "I already am. You didn't ask for this, but neither did I. And I'm not letting you go through it alone." Her strength at her age humbled me. My chest tightened with both gratitude and guilt. "You deserve better than this mess," I said softly. "You deserve parents who love and respect each other, not—" I gestured bitterly at the pile of proof. Sophia shook her head. "I deserve a dad who knows the truth." That's enough. Her words hit me harder than she knew. I wasn't just a husband betrayed. I was a father who had let this rot spread under my own roof, blind until my daughter saw it before me. The shame burned. But beneath it, a resolve began to solidify. Enough hiding. Enough pretending. It was time to confront her. The next evening, Melissa came home later than usual. I watched her step through the door, her perfume stronger than it had ever been for me, her hair carefully styled, her smile faintly smug. She set her purse down and stretched, yawning like she'd just come back from a long day at the office. "Hey," she said casually, like everything was fine. "Did you eat already?" I grabbed something with the girls. I almost laughed at the word girls. "Yeah," I said flatly, my voice heavier than I intended. "We ate." She glanced at me then, eyes flicking with a flicker of unease before she smoothed it over with that practiced sweetness. But I didn't move from the chair. I didn't give her the kiss she half-heartedly leaned in for. Instead, I let the silence hang, thick and accusing. Her brows furrowed. "What's wrong?" That was it. That tone. Like I was the one with the problem. Like I was paranoid. I reached into the pile on the table and slid one of the receipts toward her. A hotel dinner for two, dated last week. "Recognize this?" I asked, my voice like ice. Her face barely changed, but I saw the flicker. The corner of her mouth twitched, just for a second, before she forced a smirk. "Are you really going through my things now?" she said, crossing her arms. God, that's pathetic. The arrogance in her tone made my blood boil. "Pathetic?" I snapped, slamming my palm on the table. "What's pathetic is sneaking around behind your husband's back. What's pathetic is lying every damn day while you crawl into another man's bed." Her eyes narrowed, the mask slipping. "Watch your tone." My tone. My laugh was sharp bitter. "You've been humiliating me for months, Melissa. I know about the late nights, the phone calls, the tape." That word, tape, froze her. For the first time, her confidence wavered. "What tape?" she tried to say, but her voice cracked just slightly. I leaned forward, my eyes locked on hers. "The one Sophia found. The one where you didn't even bother hiding who you were with." Her lips parted, then closed again. The silence between us was deafening. Finally, she let out a sigh and dropped into the chair across from me, her face hardening into something colder than I'd ever seen. "So what if I did?" she said flatly. "Do you know how long I've felt empty in this marriage? Do you know how long I've had to put my needs second while you work yourself to death?" Her words stung, but the venom behind them stung worse. "I was working for us," I shot back. "For this family. For you. And this is how you repay me." Her smirk returned, cruel now. "Don't act like you're some saint. You think clocking in extra hours is the same as being a husband? As being a man? He made me feel alive again. He gave me what you couldn't. The words hit like gunfire, each one tearing through what little remained of the man I had been. But I didn't break. Not this time. I straightened, staring at her with a fury that burned away the shame. You admit it then, I said. Her chin lifted. Yes, I admit it, and I don't regret it. The room went still. I could hear Sophia upstairs, her footsteps pausing. She had heard enough, and I realized in that moment there was no saving what we had. The confrontation had begun, and there was no going back. Chapter 8. The Lover's Arrogance. The sun had long since dipped behind the horizon, leaving the town cloaked in a damp, restless darkness. I sat in my truck outside his office building, staring at the glowing nameplate above the polished glass doors. Richard Langford, attorney at law. Of course it was him, my so-called friend, the man who'd toasted beers with me in my kitchen, who'd clapped me on the back after long shifts, who'd told me to take care of that beautiful wife of yours. I clenched the steering wheel so tight my knuckles whitened. My chest heaved with fury I couldn't quite control. I had rehearsed a dozen versions of this moment, busting in and planting my fist square on his smirking jaw, dragging him across his shiny mahogany desk, making him feel the humiliation I had lived in. But then Sophia's voice came back to me. Dad, don't let him drag you down to his level. Make him choke on the truth. So I drew a long breath, pushed open the truck door, and walked into the lion's den. The lobby smelled of cologne and money. A receptionist, young enough to be Richard's daughter, glanced up nervously when she saw my expression. I'm sorry, sir. Mr. Langford with someone right now. Not anymore. I cut her off, my voice a low growl. Tell him Derek Mercer is here. Her eyes widened at my tone, but I didn't wait. I shoved the heavy glass door open myself and stepped inside. Richard Langford sat behind his desk, leaning back in his leather chair like a king holding court. He wore a sharp navy suit, his tie loosened just enough to look casual but expensive. His hair was slicked back, his cufflinks gleamed. And then there was that smile, the smug, practiced grin of a man who thought the world belonged to him. Well, he drawled, rising to his feet. If it isn't my old friend Danny. I was wondering when you'd finally crawl out of your little workshop and come see me. Cut the act, I snapped. You know why I'm here. He shrugged, strolling toward a side cabinet. I can guess. Drink. I stared at him in disbelief. You think this is a joke? Richard poured himself a glass of whiskey, swirling the amber liquid as if savoring the moment. No joke at all. Melissa deserves someone who can actually provide for her, mentally, emotionally, physically. You've been, what's the word? Absent. My fists curled at my sides. Every word was designed to provoke, to slice deeper than any blade. You were my friend, I said, my voice low but sharp. You sat at my table. You shook my hand. And all that time, you were crawling into my wife's bed. He took a sip, then smirked over the rim of his glass. Don't be so dramatic. Melissa made her choice. She was tired of being married to a ghost. You break your back at that factory day after day. And for what? A meager paycheck? She needed more. I gave her more. I stepped closer, the rage boiling up, but I forced myself not to swing. Not yet. You gave her nothing but lies. I hissed. You think a few expensive dinners and your fancy car make you a man? You don't know the first thing about loyalty, about family. He laughed, a short, mocking sound that echoed in the room. Loyalty? That's rich, coming from a man whose wife comes begging to me when he's too tired to touch her. The words hit me like a slap. My chest burned, but I stood my ground. You can laugh now, I said coldly, but you've stolen nothing from me. Only revealed who you both truly are. A liar and a coward. And her? A traitor to everything we built. For the first time, his smirk faltered, just a flicker. But he quickly recovered, stepping closer until we were nearly nose to nose. Face it, Danny. You're just a worker, a tool, a soldier without a war. Men like me, we own this town. Judges, clients, money, influence. You'll leave here with nothing. There was the arrogance laid bare. I breathed in deeply, every nerve screaming to strike him. But I didn't. Instead, I let the silence stretch, then whispered, You mistake silence for weakness. That will be your downfall. Richard's smirk twitched again, but he tried to laugh it off. Strong words. Two bad words don't win battles. Neither does arrogance. I shot back. His jaw tightened, just for an instant, before he turned away, retreating to his chair. He leaned back again, raising his glass like a man toasting his own victory. "This little visit," he said smoothly, "was a mistake. Go home, Danny. Accept reality. She's not coming back to you. And when we're ready, we'll make this official. Divorce, custody, property. And trust me, my friend, the judge, will make sure you walk away empty-handed." I froze. Custody. The word echoed like thunder. He wasn't just taking my wife. He was planning to take my daughter, my home, my life. That was when I smiled for the first time. A cold, bitter smile that made him shift uneasily in his chair. "Enjoy your drink, Richard," I said softly. "Because the next time we speak, it won't be in your office. And it won't be with words." I turned on my heel and walked out, every muscle rigid, my heart pounding like a war drum. The receptionist looked up as I stormed past. She opened her mouth, but I didn't stop. The glass doors swung shut behind me, the night air biting against my skin. I climbed back into my truck, gripping the steering wheel with shaking hands. Rage burned in my veins, but beneath it was something sharper, steadier. Resolve. Richard Langford thought he'd won. He thought power and arrogance would shield him. But he had no idea what storm he had just unleashed. Chapter 9, Breaking Point. The house was too quiet that evening. Too still, like it was holding its breath. I sat at the kitchen table, my hands resting on the grain of the wood I'd sanded myself years ago. This table had seen birthdays, late-night homework sessions, even nights when Melissa and I stayed up laughing until the sun threatened to rise. Tonight, it was waiting to witness a war. Melissa came in late, her heels clicking against the hardwood floor. She smelled of perfume, too much of it, too carefully applied, like she was trying to cover something else. She set her purse down without a glance toward me. "You're home early," she muttered, pulling off her coat. "Early?" I said, my voice flat. "Melissa, it's almost midnight." She stiffened, then shrugged as though it didn't matter. "I was with friends. You know how it is. We lose track of time." I studied her face. The painted lips, the smudge of eyeliner she hadn't bothered to fix, the tired gleam in her eyes. She didn't look like the woman I married. She looked like someone playing a part, and playing it poorly. "Friends," I repeated, the word sour in my mouth. Her eyes flicked to mine. Something in my tone had unsettled her. "Yes, friends. Why are you saying it like that?" I leaned back, crossing my arms. "Because I know. Melissa, I know everything." For a moment, the air between us froze solid. Her hands trembled slightly as she set down her earrings. Then she gave a bitter laugh, almost defiant. "You don't know everything," she said. "Then tell me." I snapped. The anger I had kept buried for weeks, months, finally clawed its way to the surface. "Tell me how long it's been going on. Tell me how long you've been lying to me, crawling into my bed and then his." Her chin lifted, arrogance still clinging to her even as her voice wavered. "I never thought you'd find out. You were always so busy, so distracted with your work, your pride, your routines. I thought you'd stay in your world, and I could have mine." Something inside me cracked. I slammed my hand on the table, the sound echoing through the kitchen like a gunshot. "My world," I roared. "Melissa, my world was you. My world was this family. Every hour I worked, every shift I took, every drop of sweat, it was all for you. For us. I gave you everything I had." Her facade faltered, just for a second, but she recovered, folding her arms. "And it wasn't enough. Don't you get it? You were here, but you weren't. I needed more than a husband who came home too tired to even look at me." I stared at her, disbelieving. "So, instead of talking to me, instead of telling me what you needed, you decided to destroy everything we built? You decided to spit on our vows, our family, for him?" Her lips pressed into a thin line. Richard made me feel alive again. The name was a dagger. My jaw clenched so hard it hurt. "You mean my so-called friend?" I spat. "The man I trusted, the man I welcomed into my home. And you," my voice broke, the fury giving way to raw pain. "You let him into more than that." At that moment, Sophia stepped into the kitchen doorway. Her eyes were red, her fists clenched at her sides. "Mom, stop lying. Stop pretending. I've seen enough. Dad knows because of me. Melissa whirled around, shock written all over her face. You what? Sophia's voice cracked, but her words were steady. I'm not a little girl anymore. I saw the messages. I saw the tape. I couldn't keep watching you betray Dad and pretend like nothing was wrong. So I told him. Melissa staggered back as if struck. Her eyes darted between us, panic replacing arrogance. Sophia, sweetheart, listen, no. Sophia shouted, tears spilling down her cheeks. Don't call me that. Sweetheart, you lost the right to call me that when you chose him over us. You didn't just betray Dad, you betrayed me too. Our family. Everything. The silence that followed was crushing. Melissa's breath came in shallow gasps, her shoulders trembling. I rose from the table, my voice cold and sharp. You thought I would stay silent forever, that I'd swallow the humiliation, the lies, the betrayal. But I won't. Not anymore. Melissa reached out, desperation breaking through her mask. Derek, please, I made mistakes. I was weak. I didn't think it would go this far. You didn't think. I cut her off, my voice like steel. You didn't think about me, or about Sophia, or about the vows you swore. You only thought about yourself. You burned this house down with your selfishness, and now you want pity. Her tears fell freely now, streaking through the makeup she had so carefully applied. She sank into a chair, her face buried in her hands. I didn't mean to lose everything, she whispered. Sophia stood tall, her eyes blazing. You already did. Melissa looked up at her daughter, her face crumbling as the weight of Sophia's words sank in. For the first time, the arrogance was gone. No excuses, no smirks, just a broken woman staring at the wreckage of her own choices. I stood there, my chest heaving, my heart heavy with a mixture of rage and sorrow. This was the moment I had feared and longed for. The truth laid bare, every mask ripped away. Melissa reached for me again, her voice trembling. Derek, please, say something. Tell me you don't hate me. I looked at her hand, at the wedding ring that still clung to her finger, though it meant nothing now. Slowly, I stepped back, leaving her hand grasping at empty air. I don't hate you, I said, my voice low and final. But I can never love you again. Her face crumpled completely then. Whatever wall she had left shattered. She realized, truly realized, that she had lost not just her husband, but her daughter, her family, her home. The silence in that kitchen was deafening. Only Melissa's quiet sobs filled the void as Sophia and I stood together, side by side. And in that moment, the truth became undeniable. Melissa had destroyed the life we built, and there was no way back. Chapter 10, The Debt Always Comes Due. The morning sun slanted through the kitchen blinds, casting long stripes across the floor. I moved slowly, deliberately, as if every step reminded me I was stepping out a life that had been poisoned for far too long. The house felt empty now, eerily quiet in a way that was almost liberating. Melissa's things were gone, or at least most of them. The expensive dresses, the makeup, the perfume that had filled every corner. They were packed into boxes, loaded into her sleek car that gleamed like it belonged to someone else entirely. She had left hours ago, after a tense final conversation that had been more silence than words, more pain than explanation. Sophia sat at the table, tracing the grain of the wood with her finger. Her eyes were red from crying the night before, but they held a quiet strength I had never seen before. She looked up as I entered the room. Dad, she said softly, are we really done? I nodded, pulling out a chair and sitting beside her. Yes, Sophia, we're done. Done with the lies, done with the betrayal, done with everything that made this house feel like a prison. She leaned against me, her small hand slipping into mine. I don't miss her, she admitted quietly. I don't want things to feel broken forever. It won't, I said, pressing my thumb against hers. We'll rebuild, just the two of us. The first act of reclaiming my life wasn't loud. There were no dramatic gestures, no shouting matches, no courthouse battles in this moment. It was simply walking away from what had been toxic and refusing to let it define me. Every room I passed reminded me of the years, both good and bad. but I refused to dwell on the betrayal. Instead, I focused on the life that was waiting, one I would shape on my own terms, anchored by loyalty, hard work, and the love for my daughter. Melissa had left behind a note, brief and perfunctory, the kind of note someone leaves when they think remorse can replace accountability. "I'm sorry. I never wanted it to end this way. I hope you can forgive me one day." I crumpled it and tossed it in the trash. Forgiveness wasn't about letting her off the hook. It was about clearing the space in my heart for dignity and clarity. Sophia watched me, curious. "Are you really okay?" I took a deep breath, letting the weight of everything I had carried finally start to lift. "I am, kiddo. I am. It hurts, yes, but it's not weakness. It's proof that I gave everything that was mine, and that's the only thing that matters. Loyalty is not a burden. It's my strength." She smiled faintly, leaning her head against my shoulder. "I think I get it. You didn't lose anything that really mattered." "No," I said. "She may have betrayed me. She may have tried to break this family, but she didn't take our love. She didn't take our bond. That's untouchable. That's ours." Later that day, we went out for a long walk. The crisp air felt good, like it was purging the bitterness from our lungs. Sophia skipped ahead occasionally, her laughter ringing out over the empty streets. I watched her, and for the first time in months, I didn't feel the shadow of betrayal looming over me. I felt hope. "Dad," she said suddenly, looking up at me with those wide, trusting eyes. "Do you think she'll ever regret it?" I shook my head slowly, choosing my words with care. "Maybe, but that's not our concern anymore. We live with our choices, and she'll have to live with hers. That's the debt she owes." Sophia frowned, trying to grasp the weight of the concept. "Debt?" "Yeah," I said. "You can betray a man's heart, but you can't take his soul. That debt always comes due." She repeated the words, thoughtfully, like a small mantra, and I felt a quiet smile tug my lips. She was learning. She was strong. She was loyal, and she had chosen where her family truly belonged. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding what Melissa had tried to destroy. I cleaned the house, turning it into a home again rather than a reminder of treachery. I spent evenings with Sophia, helping her with homework, teaching her to ride her bike, talking about dreams for the future that didn't involve pain or lies. Work was no longer an escape. It was a source of pride, a reminder that I could provide and protect without needing validation from someone who didn't value me. Every drop of sweat, every calloused hand, every long hour spent was a testament to resilience. Melissa's absence became a quiet presence, a reminder of what I refused to let back into my life. One afternoon, Sophia and I were painting her room, choosing colors and laughing at our clumsy brushstrokes. I paused to watch her, a sudden wave of gratitude and wonder washing over me. "You know," I said softly, "you're the reason I keep going. Your loyalty, your honesty, your courage. It reminds me of everything I've worked for." Sophia looked at me, smiling through the streaks of pink paint smeared on her cheeks. "We're a team, Dad. You and me." "Yes," I said, my heart swelling. "Always a team." And in that simple, unremarkable moment, I understood something profound. Betrayal could not take away what truly mattered. Melissa's actions had tried to break us, to strip away my pride, my dignity, my sense of self. But loyalty, true loyalty, was stronger than deceit. It could withstand the darkest of storms. That night, as Sophia drifted off to sleep, I sat on the edge of her bed and watched her breathe. The weight of the past months pressed against my chest, but it no longer felt like a trap. It felt like a lesson, a proof that the human heart can endure, can heal, and can emerge stronger from even the deepest wounds. I thought of Melissa, somewhere out there, facing the reality of her choices. I thought of Richard, arrogant and smug, oblivious to the storm he had helped create. And I knew that life had a way of balancing accounts, of making people confront the consequences of their actions. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting the quiet of the house settle over me like a protective cloak. I had lost a wife, yes, but I had gained clarity. I had preserved my soul. I had my daughter. I had loyalty, integrity, and the unshakable knowledge that no one could ever touch the part of me that truly mattered. And as I whispered one last thought into the stillness, I felt a profound sense of closure and resolve. You can betray a man's heart, but you can't take his soul. That debt always comes due,